Now let us understand what is a regression. So regression analysis is a predictive modeling technique, and it is going to model the relationship between a dependent variable, which is also called as target variable, and one or more independent variables, which are also known as predictor variables. And this comes under the category of statistical method. And this regression analysis helps the users to understand how the value of the dependent variable is changing whenever there is a change in the corresponding independent variable. Okay, you may have more than one independent variable also. So if I change one independent variable and keep the remaining independent variables as constant, how the dependent variable is changing, you can predict that also with the help of regression model. And the main application of regression analysis is it predicts the continuous or real values output such as temperature, age, salary, price, etc. This is the main thing about regression. And in the case of regression analysis, our aim is we are going to determine the best fit line which will pass through all the data points you have taken in your training example. And our aim is we want to minimize the distance of the line from each of the data points. Now, first we will understand the common terminologies used in this. So here we have two variables. One is called as dependent variable and other is independent variable. So dependent variable is nothing but the factor that we want to predict in the particular algorithm is called as dependent variable. It is also called as target variable. And the independent variable is nothing but some factors are going to affect the different dependent variables. So you will call those variables as independent variables. They are also called as predictor variables. And whenever you do regression analysis, sometimes there will be outliers in your data set also. So when you take any real world data set, before you perform the regression model, you have to take care of all the outliers. Outliers are nothing but they are data points, and these data points will have either very high value or very low value compared to other observed values. You can take any of the attribute. Always when I say as mark, all the students' marks will be from 0 to 100. Okay, minimum mark is 0, maximum is 100 if I give at a scale of 100. But sometimes when I enter the data, I may enter the data wrongly. Instead of typing 90, I may type 900 also. That is an outlier in that. So I cannot develop the model with the help of the outlier. If I do that, definitely the model will not be predicting perfectly. I have to remove the outlier. And these outliers are going to hamper the result, so they should be avoided. And you before you remove any outliers from your data set, you should be very careful. Sometimes the outliers are not exactly outliers. They are part of your actual data. For example, let us assume that I want to develop an application which is going to predict forest fire. Temperature is one of the important attributes for predicting the forest fire. If the temperature is normal temperature, then it means that there is no fire. Everything is perfect. When the temperature suddenly increases, then only it indicates that forest fire. But you should not take at a particular point of time, there may be a forest fire. So some high value will be generated for the temperature. But when you treat those values, you should not consider that as outlier. There, the high temperature is different from other temperature readings. Even though it is different, it is not an outlier. That data should not be discarded because that is a very important data I have to predict the forest fire. So whenever you deal with outliers, don't simply remove the data. You try to understand the importance of that and then come to a conclusion. Residual is nothing but in all these applications, you have some value and you want to predict the value. So you have two different values now, actual value and then predicted value. Actual value is nothing but the value you are observing in the real data and you are giving that as a training sample or otherwise testing sample. It may be anything, but the actual value is the value you are observing from the real world environment. And predicted value is nothing but the estimated value that you are getting from the model. And residual is nothing but it is also called as error. It is the difference between the observed value and the predicted value. And our aim is we want to minimize this residual. If the residual is 0, it means that our model is so perfect and it is predicting the same value as that of the observed value. And the next term is when you go for regression, you have to consider multi-collinearity between the variables. Here we have so many independent variables which are also called as features. Based upon those features only, we are going to predict our output variable. Sometimes what is going to happen is when you take the independent variables, there may be a relation between the independent variables. They will be highly correlated with each other. Correlation is a problem, and if the degree of the correlation is very high, this will create a problem when you fit the model and interpret a result. So whenever you go for regression, you have to consider this multi-collinearity also. For that only, we will understand all the features. We will find the correlation between different features, and finally we will select only the features what we feel is very important. So what is underfitting is, you will develop a model, and a model is going to predict the data, whatever you have in your training set well. Okay, so sometimes what will happen is the model you have developed underfits the data when the algorithm is unable to predict the training set well. Okay, our aim is it has to work definitely fine for the training set, because from that only the model is learning the data. But sometimes the model will not learn even from the training set well. So that is called as underfitting. So what is the problem with the underfitting model? So this model cannot capture the underlying trend of the data. So I am developing a model for a particular purpose, but the model is not learning properly even during the training. So definitely it will not work for the future testing data also. Okay, so the model can neither model the training data correctly nor generalize to the new data. This new data is nothing but the testing data, or otherwise the data you will give in the future, which is unknown data. And our aim is we have to avoid this underfitting. For that, we have different methods. Now let us see the methods to avoid underfitting. First method to avoid underfitting is increase the complexity of the model, or otherwise you change the type of the model. Okay, so complexity is nothing but every model is going to have so many parameters. Okay, so you are going to either increase the number of parameters, or otherwise the model will have, when we go for deep learning, you will understand these things. The model will have so many layers. Even in the neural networks, we will understand there will be so many layers in that. When you increase the number of layers, then you will be increasing the complexity of the model. Or otherwise, you change the type of the model so that you avoid overfitting. That is one way. And the second is you can increase the number of features so that the model is trying to learn perfectly from all the features. So in that way, you can avoid underfitting. And the third is remove the noise from your data. If your data is having noise, definitely the model is going to learn wrong things only. Always, whenever you go for any model development, before that pre-processing is very important, where we are going to remove the data, all the pre-processing, whatever you have seen in the DMML unit 1, that you have to apply before you develop the model. So main thing there is remove the noise from the data. And then this works for deep learning projects perfectly. When you want to avoid underfitting, you have to increase the number of epochs. Epochs is nothing but the number of runs in your model. Okay, you increase the number of epochs, or otherwise increase the duration of the training time so that the model will learn better. So this is one way. And the next is you increase the size, or otherwise number of parameters in the MML model. So these are the various methods to avoid underfitting. And when we see the programs, you will understand everything. And the next is overfitting. Overfitting is nothing but in the underfitting, we have seen that a model is not working well for training data. In the basic itself, it fails. What is overfitting is the model is working very well with the training data, but when you give the testing data, the model is not testing it correctly. That is called as overfitting. So the algorithm is working too well with the training data set, but not well with the test data set, or otherwise a new unseen example that is given to the algorithm. Okay, how this overfitting happens? Why it is working well with the training data set, but not with the testing data set? Already in decision tree, we have seen that overfitting happens when your data is having too much of noise. Okay, so when the model gets trained with the data that has noise, what is going to happen is the model is going to learn the features from the noise, which are nothing but incorrect data entries we do during our data entry operation. Okay, so like what I told you now, instead of entering the mark as 90, I am entering the mark as 900. So it is longly learning the concept from the 900 data. 900 is a wrong concept, but the model is learning only from that. Okay, so because of that, what is going to happen is the noise in the training data is picked up so well by the model, and it is learned as concept by the model. Okay, and all these concepts which are learned from the noise do not apply to the new data, because noise is nothing but it will not be always present. When I make mistake, instead of entering mark as 90 to 900, I cannot make that mistake always. Rarely I will make the mistake. Okay, so but from that only it is learning the data. So as these concepts learned from the noise do not apply to the new data, the model does not categorize the new data correctly. So we can say that overfitting is creating negative impact on the performance of the model on the new data. And so one way is to reduce the complexity of the model. And the second way is, this is the thing we have seen in the decision tree. You can go for early stopping, okay, and pruning the nodes. So early stopping during the training phase will also reduce the overfitting, because during training only the model is overfitting. So holdout is nothing but I'll give you some training data. For example, if I give you 1,000 records, don't use all the 1,000 records for the training itself. You are going to separate your data into two parts. You are going to keep some data for testing also. That is called as holdout approach. So rather than using all of our data for training, we can divide our data set into two sets. One is the training set and the other is the testing set. And when we develop the model, we will use the training set. And once we develop the model, we will find the model accuracy by applying the testing set. That is called as holdout approach. You are keeping certain portion for testing also. And a common split ratio that is generally employed is 80:20. It means that 80% of your data is used for training and 20% is used for testing. Sometimes you can go for 70:30. They are the commonly used factors. It is not that you have to do this one only. You can even try with 60:40. You can understand how your model is performing for various proportion of training and testing set. And here, this is a diagram to understand. The pie chart represents the whole portion. In that 20% I'm using for testing and remaining 80% of the data I'm using for training. Always we will use more data for training only rather than testing, because from the training only the model is learning. In testing, you are simply testing the accuracy of the model. So keep as much as possible for the training. And we are going to train our model until it performs well, not only on the training set, but also on the testing set. And when you do that, you can develop a model with the good generalization capability. Because of that, when you give an unseen data as input to the model that is not used during the training phase, the model will perform perfectly. But the main important thing for this holdout approach is we need sufficiently large training data set. Test sample and the train sample should have the same distribution. Then only you will use this approach. Otherwise, it is not acceptable. And the last approach for this overfitting avoidance is cross-validation. If you have your data set, you are going to split our data set into K groups. So here the name of this one is K-fold cross-validation. So you are going to divide your data set into K groups. The value of the K should not be too high or it should not be too small. The ideal value for the K is from 5 to 10, and you can choose this depending upon your data set size. Now let us understand how this is going to work. So here I have divided my data set into 4 groups. It is 4-fold cross-validation I'm using. You can see here, this is the group 1. In every group, I have totally 5 samples. This is group 2 with 5 samples, and this is group 3, 5 samples, and this is group 4, 5 samples. Totally, I have 20 samples in my training data. That is my initial data set. I'm going to take, out of the 20, I'm going to take 5 samples for the testing, remaining 50 samples for the training. And when you go for the previous approach, holdout approach, from the 20, you will keep some 15 for the training and remaining 5 for the testing. You will not change the portion. For example, if I say that first 15 I am keeping for training, the last 5 I will keep for testing. But in the cross validation, that is not the case. You will say that 5 samples I am going to use for testing, but which 5 samples? That is going to change in every iteration. For example, if you go for iteration number 1, you will use the first 5 samples as the test data and remaining 50 samples as the training data. So your model is going to learn from this training data and it will find the accuracy by fitting the model with this test data. Okay, that is the first iteration. And in the second iteration, what you're going to do is you're going to change your testing data and training data. But the data is only from those 20 samples only. But you will use the second 5 samples as the test data and remaining 15 as the training data. So now from this, what is the main advantages? Previously, the model is learned from these 15 data only. But now the model is trained with this 10 and then this 5. So totally 15, but different data set. Okay. And remaining 5, whatever you have used here, this will be now used for testing. And in the third iteration, what you will do is first 10 you will use for training. Next 5 you will use for testing, and the last 5 also you will use for training. So totally 15 you are using for training and 5 you are using for testing. Likewise, you will do. Okay, so now let us see what is the basic approach in this. You are going to use one of the groups as a testing set and other groups as a training set. Here we have 4 groups. One of the group we are going to use as testing, and remaining all the groups will be used for training. And you are going to repeat this process until each individual group has been used as a testing set. It means that if I go for K, that is 4-fold cross validation, I should go for minimum 4 iterations, because every group should be used as testing set at least one time. Okay, so what you have to do here, this group is first used as testing. In the second iteration, second group is used as testing. In the third iteration, third group is used as testing sample. In the fourth iteration, fourth group will be used as testing sample. Minimum, you should go for 4 iterations so that all the groups are used as testing sample. And this is the best approach if we have limited input data. Now, let us understand types of regression. So in regression, the famous types are linear regression, logistic regression, then polynomial regression, ridge regression, lasso regression. Then we have elastic net regression, we have SVM regression, then decision tree regression, and so on. Okay. Now let us understand linear regression. Linear regression is a linear model, and this model is going to assume a linear relationship between the input variables X and a single output variable Y. Always our output variable is a single only, but input variables can be any number. And we are going to predict a linear relation between the input variables and the output variable. So we will say that the output variable Y can be calculated from a linear combination of the input variables. And in linear regression, we have 2 types as important types. They are simple linear regression and then multiple linear regression. So in case of simple linear regression, we will have only one input variable and one output variable. If you go for multiple linear regression, we will have more than one input variables, but we will have again only one output variable. Now, where we can use this regression? So regression plays a very important role in certain applications. Like whenever you go for sales forecasting, we can use regression. For example, every supermarket, when they want to give a sale, they want to identify what will be the sale they will be expecting in a particular period of time. So for that, if they have the history of data, they can use it. And with the help of the history, they can find out the patterns and predict the future sales also. And you can use regression for risk analysis in any application which is sensitive to risk. And it is also used in applications like housing applications to predict the house price and house rent. And then it can be used in finance applications also to predict the stock price. And when you invest anything, if you want to evaluate it, you can use this regression model. And it is used in some famous applications like rainfall prediction and weather prediction and so on. But it is not limited to these things. We have so many applications of regression. These are very important applications where we'll be using regression. Now let us consider how we can predict the house price with the help of regression. So I want to sell my house. My aim is I want to list in nobroker.com, and whoever is interested, they may call me and I will sell the house. So when I list in nobroker.com, I have to say the price of my house. So how much price to list in that website? That is my question now. Either I have a house, can I list 50 lakhs or 70 lakhs or 20 lakhs? It depends upon what. So how I'm going to select the price. For that, I can use this regression model. So what is the criteria here is, I'm going to check the sale price of the house in the same area for the past few months. Maybe some of my neighbor might have sold their house. So I'll ask them for how much price you have sold the house. Then I will collect the data from him. Like that, I will collect the data from all my neighbors, those who sold the house or otherwise those who bought the house. Okay, then I'll prepare a table like this. I'll prepare the square feet of my house, then the corresponding price of that house. Likewise, I will ask all my friends and neighbors, I'll try to create a table like this. So once I create the table, I'll be populating the table with the data. Initially, it is null. When I ask my first friend, I'll populate the first column. When I ask the second friend, I'll populate the second column and so on. So finally, I will populate the table with as many entries as I know the values. Now this is going to act as my data set. And after that, what I will do, I am going to plot a graph between those two variables. So I am going to take the variable, which is independent variable in the x-axis and dependent variables in the y-axis. And I'm going to plot all the data points I have collected in the previous slide. So what is the independent variable here? That is nothing but square feet of the house. And the dependent variable is the price of the house in lakhs or crores. It is up to the place where you are living. So I'm going to plot the points which are called as data points. So now the circle represents the data points which are going to represent the data I have collected from my neighbors. And once I plot the point, in case of linear regression, what I have to do is I have to find a straight line that fit the point. Okay, so you have to draw a straight line that is going to fit the points. But it is not that the straight line is going to pass through all the points. Okay, so how to find the straight line? What is the strategy we are going to find the straight line in this? So let us understand the mathematical representation, then we will see the strategy. So you know the basic equation of a straight line. We can represent a straight line by means of the equation y is equal to mx plus c. The linear regression, that is simple linear regression, also follows the same method because it is linear. So the equation of the straight line applies here. So the equation is y is equal to mx plus c. And here y is a dependent variable, a target variable, and x is the independent variable. Since we have simple linear regression, I will have only one independent variable x. When you go for multiple linear regression, you will have more than one input variables. You can represent x1, x2, x3, etc., etc. But here it is simple linear regression. So I have only one independent variable x. And in this C, we have, that is nothing but y-intercept of the line. It is going to give additional degree of freedom for tuning your straight line. And then M is called as slope, or otherwise we will call as gradient or linear regression coefficient. And this M is nothing but it is a scaling factor to each of the input variable. Here x is the variable, input variable. For that, we are going to apply the scaling factor. So when I say that you learn the model, we are going to learn the parameters of the model. Parameters of this particular model are nothing but the values of C and M only. So I am going to learn the above two parameters by means of tuning. Okay, so let us see how to learn those parameters. Now our aim is we want to find a straight line which is going to pass through the points. And you can, for the given set of points, you can draw the straight line in many ways. I can draw one line as given by the blue color, or otherwise I can draw another line as given by the green color, or another line as given by the red color. There are so many ways I can draw this straight line. So I have to determine which is the best line, because all the straight lines, none of the straight line will pass exactly through all the points. It will cover some of the points. It will have some deviation from the remaining points. So how to select the best line? That is a very important concept in this linear regression. So to select the best line, we are going to use something called as sum of squares of residuals. In sum of squares of residuals, we are going to find the residual first. That is the difference between the observed value and the predicted value. So the value which are indicated by the circles represent the actual value. And then the value which are indicated by the straight line at that particular point is called as predicted value. So find the difference between these two, that is the residual. After that, some of the residuals may be positive and some of the residuals may be negative. If you find simply sum of all the residuals, they may cancel each other, you will get the answer as 0. So what we are going to do is we are going to square the residuals. The purpose of squaring residuals is some will be positive and some will be negative. So they may cancel each other out, but we want to retain their effect. So you're going to square the residuals. So once you square the residuals, finally, you find the sum of the squares of all the residuals. That is called as RSS method. So this you are going to do for all the straight lines. And finally, you have to select only one straight line from that. Once you find this for all the straight lines, you are going to choose the line with the lowest RSS value. Why I am choosing the lowest RSS value is, my aim is I want to minimize the residual or error. So find the line with lowest RSS value that is going to give you the perfect line. Let us see how they are finding the squares of the residuals. For that, they are using something called as least square method. So this least square method is going to minimize the error in such a way that the sum of all square error is minimized. Now, let us see the formula here. When you apply the least square method, you can use this particular formula to find the values of M and C because they are the parameters of our linear regression model. You can find M by means of this particular equation. So M is nothing but sum of all x minus x mean multiplied by y minus y mean divided by sigma of x minus x mean the whole square. And then once you find the value of M, then you can use this M value to find the value of C. So C is calculated as y mean minus M multiplied by x mean. Now, once you find the two parameters M and C by that particular formula, so you will know the straight line. Now, I have three straight lines, but I have chosen this blue color straight line as my best line. Then once I do that, what is my next step? I have finished my training process. I have developed the model. The model is nothing but the parameters of the straight line. With that, I am drawing the straight line now. So after that, I can go for prediction. Prediction is nothing but if a new unseen or unknown value is given to me, I have to find the price of that particular house. Okay. So here I am giving the size of my house now. Just find at what point this is intersecting the line. Okay. So this is the point. Now the corresponding Y value, you can take it from the line. So this is my predicted sales price. And when you go for the regression line, we can have two different types of regression lines. Linear line, which is showing the relationship between the dependent variable and independent variables. And this line can be of two types. One is positive linear relationship. So what is positive linear relation is when your independent variable increases, the dependent variable Y will also increase. That is called as positive line of regression. The slope is positive. Okay, so you can consider the example as square feet and the house price. When the square feet is increasing, which is the independent variable, this is a positive linear relationship. And what is negative linear relationship is when the independent variable increases. Here you can see X is increasing, but the value of Y is decreasing. So this is called as negative linear relationship. Here the slope is negative slope. And what is the example for this particular case is you can consider the case as age of the building as the independent variable and house price as a dependent variable. When the age of the building is increasing, definitely there will be a depreciation in the price of the house. So this is an example for negative linear relationship. So we are going to follow the least square method where we are going to minimize the residual sum of all the squares. Okay, so here X is nothing but this is my input variable, size of the house in square feet as X, and Y is nothing but this is a dependent variable, which is nothing but the price of the house, what I want to predict. And this is the equation I have told you in the previous slide. We are going to learn the parameters of the model. They are nothing but the M value and then C value. So which is our training set here is, this is our training set. Training set consists of only two columns. X is the input feature column and Y is the target class, what we want to predict. This is a predictor variable. And now we are going to find first this particular M we are going to find. For that we need X minus X mean, Y minus Y mean. We have to find these two columns and find the sum of those columns. And also we need to find sum of X minus X mean square column. So this is the thing we want to find now. So when you want to do this, first of all, you need to have X mean and then Y mean. So you can see here in the Excel sheet, I have calculated X mean. It is nothing but you sum of all the columns and divided by number of entries. Similarly, I have calculated Y mean by adding all the Y values and dividing by number of entries there. And finally, calculate Xi minus X mean. So this Xi minus X mean is nothing but for every row, this is Xi. Okay, so the first row I have calculated like xi is 1200 and x mean is nothing but 2171. So 1200 minus 2171. Likewise, you do for all the rows. And then similarly, you calculate yi minus y mean. For the first row, it is 50 lakhs minus 68 lakhs. So I am getting minus 18 lakhs. Once you do that, calculate xi minus x mean the whole square by simply multiplying this column by itself. And then xi minus x mean multiplied by yi minus y mean, because all these things I want for this particular formula. So now I have calculated all the values I want for the formula. Now what I need in the numerator is sum of all xi minus x mean into yi minus y mean. So you would see this column. This column contains xi minus x mean multiplied by yi minus y mean. You find the sum of all the columns. So here I have find the sum of all these values. Okay. Add all the rows in this particular column. That is nothing but the numerator. And the denominator is sum of xi minus x mean the whole square. So in this, I have calculated xi minus x mean the whole square. Find the sum of all these rows. You will get this value, that is the denominator. Now I have to divide the numerator, this value, by the denominator value. I'll be getting m value here. Okay, so m I have calculated. And for this particular example, the calculated value of m is 1900.84. Now the model should apply this m value to find out the c value. To find c value, it's nothing but y mean minus m into x mean. So here y mean we have here. Y mean is nothing but this particular value. And m is nothing but the value you have learned in the previous step, that is 1900.84. And x mean is the mean of this particular column. So when you apply this, you will get the c value as, this is my c value I got for this particular example. Okay, it is around 26,72,469. Okay, this is a c value. And once you get the two parameters m and c, you can develop the equation for the straight line. That is nothing but y is equal to mx plus c. Okay, m is 1900.84. So that multiplied by x plus c is this particular value. Okay, so this is my equation. I have learned this equation. Once I learn this equation, what I can do, I can give any new value as input. I can predict the value. Okay, so now let us understand how the model is going to find the sum of squares of the errors and how it is going to minimize it. So this is the equation you have learned. Now what the model will do is, it will take this equation, it will apply the first x value in this equation, it will predict the y value. Okay, so that is, take this particular equation, apply x is equal to 1200, you will get one y value. That is nothing but predicted y. Similarly, take the next training example, x is 1500, apply that in this model, predict the value of y. This is a predicted value of y. Likewise, you have to do for all the values. And you can plot the graph between the predicted value and the actual value. The blue color points represent the actual value, and brown color points represent predicted values. So now this is a basic behind the prediction for this.